Ayo, what's good? So 2 days ago, former junior middleweight contender Tony Ayala Jr. was found dead in the make a quick in the Sarzamora Street Gym, which he was being a trainer in. Uh, Tony Ayala is the brother of former world champion Paulie Ayala, also the son of Tony Ayala, of course, who has trained a few world champions. You could go check out who he's trained later because I can't think of any as the top of my head. But yeah, I want to talk about the potential that was, and there was a great article on Sweet Science. It's called Tony Ayala Jr. The Glory of What Might Have Been and the horror of what was. So I'm gonna put this link in this story in the description as well as various other stories. So if you're not familiar with the Tony Ayala story, you can get a bit familiarized through these articles like I did. And it's just a travesty, man. It's just ugh. But it's gonna be hard to talk about. But I am. Okay. So in 1982 and 1991, 81, 82, Tony Ayala was a brutal fighter, a fighter that personified machismo to the max. People were comparing him to Roberto Duran and just how brutal he was, just how angry he was in the ring, just how much he wanted to kill his opponents like Roberto Duran did as well. I'm gonna read something that Lou Duva said. This is not just anybody. This is Hall of Fame trainer Lou Duva. He said, who trained this guy, which really surprised me as well. He said, "Forget Leonard, forget Hagler, and yeah, forget Mike Tyson. Rocky Marciano and Tony Ayala were the guys. Not even Muhammad Ali, great as he was, had it quite like those two. So this guy was destined to greatness." Um, he was scheduled to fight. He was scheduled to fight Davey Moore in 1983 for the world champion. So he was in championship contention, and he might have been great. Who knows? They were saying that he could have been greater than Leonard Hagler, Tommy Hearns, Mike Tyson. But when you're a bad seed, you're a bad seed, man. Not even the potential fame, not even the potential millions of dollars is going to tame you. What this guy did is horrendous, man. So he broke into a woman's house, one that lived in his apartment. He broke into her house, tied her up to her bed with her own socks, and raped her. One thing I can't stand in this world, man, I could see justifications for murder, for robbery. There is justifications for that. You could say but there's no justification for something like this, man. This is just disgusting. I think rapists are the worst people on earth, man. Are pieces of shit, bar none. Especially child molesters, but that's not his case, of course. But because these people are just sick in the brain, there's something wrong with them that should be treated, should be helped. They need help. So this was not the first time he did it. Actually, when he was 15, he did this to 18-year-old woman. He beat her up and raped her. Actually, so according to Boxingscene, so this was not the first time he did it. Uh, he was literally sick in the mind, and this was what he did, man. He also did heroin, cocaine, and alcohol. And for those that know a little bit about heroin, heroin users are the most violent and they'll kill for their shit. Yeah, heroin's one of the worst drugs ever. So he did 16 years, 15 years. and he got out. So wanted to make his comeback. Started fighting in 1999. Had like 4 fights, then lost to Yoribor Campas. Had other fights, but this guy just couldn't stay out of trouble, man. In the year 2000, he broke into another woman's house. Another woman he knew that actually, that she would work out with, and he would work out with, and was actually sort of friends. He broke into her house, but she was ready. She heard a man, she heard a man break into her house. She went to her room, got the gun, and he was like, "Hey, come on, baby, I just came to talk." she knew, she knew his history. Shot him on the shoulder. You know, he got tried, but he was off he was just given parole for that. But all signs looked to he was trying to do the same thing. The same exact thing, man. Some habits never die. Some things you just, man. So yeah, he wasn't actually given time for that, but he was given paroled. So, but he failed to make parole when he was caught with using heroin. So, man, heroin, some drug, I'll tell you that. Um, so he served another 10 years, barely got out. He barely got out like last year, 2014, and he was found dead. He was found dead in his own gym. He was trying to be a boxing trainer now. He was 52. His dad died last year, which must have been like a huge detriment because we all know, like, no matter what we do, our family's always gonna have his back. So I imagine that this guy, the world turned his back on him, and for good reason. He has even said in interviews, for good reason, that the world has turned his back on him. But but last year he died, and that must have taken a toll on him, man. It's like you feel sorry for him, but then again, the acts that he did are just so horrendous, so disgusting to the human race, man. Like, of course, you were sick because these people are sick. But what's made him sick? He was sick. I argue that that's what made him great inside the ring. Sort of like Edwin Valero. Of course, these guys are pieces of shit for what they did. Edwin Valero killed his wife. Chris Benoit too. A wrestler. He was a wrestler. Killed his wife and child. But people still remember them for being great because of what they saw in the ring, because they were entertained by them. And I argue that this intensity, this passion for what they did, this brutality that they exhibited during their fights, during their ring life, had a lot to do with their sickness and their drug use, man. That, especially, you get this sickness plus drug use. Edwin Valero was a cocaine user. Chris Benoit was abused antidepressants and alcohol. This guy Tony Ayala Jr. Abused heroin, and these are hell of a drugs, man. Hell of a drugs. Actually, Tony Ayala admitted to shooting heroin before 3 fights, but nobody cared about that. Nobody cared about the stuff he did as long as he was knocking cats out. But that was until the crime hit. The crime was that big. So you could do minor crimes as long as you're still being sweet in the ring. As long as you're still doing your thing, baby. That's what they would tell him. So he said he was getting arrested, but they would still have his back once he started knocking people out again. But it comes to a point, man, when you do just something so horrible like that. Just, ugh. So even sucks to talk about it because that's just so disgusting. But what could have been, maybe could have been as big as Hagler Duran, but I don't think so. I think he always had those demons, and they just needed to get treated, and the sport of boxing just didn't aid with that. In fact, it In fact, I think it just added to that. It just added to to their demons. It didn't help them. It could not tame Tony Ayala Jr. And they were comparing him to Johnny Tapia. And I say no. Hell no. For whatever Johnny Tapia was, he had his demons, man. I watched his Tapia documentary. I love Johnny Tapia. I read his book. I reviewed his documentary in my channel. Go check it out. But you could tell Johnny Tapia is a great guy. He's a loving guy. And he never did anything like this. Of course, he had his problems, with cocaine and drugs, but he never did anything like this, man. And he was a 3-time world champion. He tamed his demons. If his demons were drugs, his demons were not as strong as this guy's. It was not a sickness like this. And when I want to offer a story, I read it's in a book called Immortality. Good book, good book. Um, there was a story about a man that he was a teacher, and he was a child molester. So he was a child molester, molesting students. He got fired, so he got himself treated, and he was like, "What the hell's wrong with me, man?" So he went to the doctors and got an MRI. Apparently, he had a tumor in his brain. He had a tumor in his brain, and so he's like, "Oh shit, I gotta get this removed." You know what I'm saying? So he got the tumor removed, and so once he got that tumor removed, all these thoughts of pedophilia, all these thoughts of molesting children, were gone. So your mind is everything. All of your thoughts, all of your feelings, it's in your mind. And I'm not saying this guy had a tumor and that's why, but that's what affected that guy. So we never know what or how or what the hell could be affecting these guys. Tony Ayala, he says he was molested as a kid by, one of the family friends, and he could never admit it. And this is one of the reasons why, he had to prove his machismo. He had to prove that he was a straight man. But he even said that, it doesn't justify everything that he did. So I would like to say rest in peace, but all I can say is may God have mercy on your soul, man. And peace to your victims. May they have found the peace in their lives. Now, thanks for watching. Comment, subscribe. Peace.